as well. Somebody will be timing him, give him a 30-second warning, and then if we get down to 15, I'll really start getting on his case here and let him know his time is almost up. And then we'll get to some more light, fun questions, and then we'll turn things over to you guys where you can ask some questions as well. But first of all, I'm going to give 2 minutes to you, Bill, to just kind of introduce yourself to everybody and tell them who you are.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Forward Montana. Thank you, League of Women Voters. And thank you, Kiwanis, for hosting these forums today. I wanted to give you a little bit of my background. I was an educator for many years, ran the Even Start Literacy program for School District 2, went on to go on the Yellowstone County Commission, was on the commission for 24 years, retired off, went up to MSU Billings. My project was to build the new science building. I was there for 6 years. We built the building, and the building, $18.5 million building, is in place. Retired and thought I'd stay home. And at that time, Mary Lee called me from the YWCA and needed help to raise the last $2 million for the domestic abuse shelter. I learned a lot in 6 months on domestic abuse in this community and the rise of violent crime in this community at 21%. And then we raised the money, and many years ago, in 1985, I was on the Committee for the Prevention of Child Abuse. So when the Family Tree Nurturing Center needed an executive director, I said, well, that's great, I'll come down. It's a part-time job, I'll do it. Nothing's a part-time job. We had financial problems, and so I took it over, and we've been going strong since. So that's kind of where I'm at. I had 2 murders and a shooting in my neighborhood where I've lived for 31 years, and decided that I wanted to look at where we are because we had just voted in a public safety levy 2 years ago.
All right, and now we're going to get into the questions, make things official here. We've got our timer on point, ready to roll here. Question number 1, Bill. Billings, like many communities in Montana, is seeing rapid growth and rising cost of living and rental prices. What is the single most impactful policy or action that City Council can take to combat and support more affordable, or combat that and support more affordable rental opportunities, especially for young folks, seniors, and those that are low or middle income?
The number one thing that I would say about seniors, and I've asked the City Council members, and I've also asked the County Commission on the mill levies, where the mills were last year with the inflationary dollars this year. Are they going to help, and are they going to help out the seniors? You have to remember, seniors get about 1/3 off if they meet the threshold of the property tax relief on property taxes. That's a biggie, and that's what I'd like to really center in on. Affordable housing. I've got many city lots around Taft School. I'm down on 5th and 26th Street at the old Taft School where we run the Family Tree Nurturing Center. We have 2 lots across the street. We have lots on 27th Street. We have lots over on a couple of the other streets down there. Why aren't we partnering with an agency or nonprofit and be able to look at the low-income housing investment dollars? The YWCA did it, built a 24-apartment building using all low-income tax credits. And I think we have that opportunity. I think the city needs to look at that to try to get the affordable housing in. I know there's many folks that look at nonprofits around that would work. I have so many families in our program that could use affordable housing. And right now, we have 180 that have been in the hotels since COVID. Those dollars are going away. And we have, I want to say, 5 families right now that we've been trying to find affordable housing. $1,200 a month is not affordable. And we need to help them with that. I think there's incentives that the city can look at, and we need to work with to try to do it. Section 8 right now, landlords aren't taking it. they can get more money without the Section 8. So housing is a huge issue, and I would like to tackle that.
Do you support increased funding for community programs and resources that provide services to our homeless neighbors? If so, what programs would you like to see implemented or funded?
One of the areas that I was involved with, 30 years I was chairman of the board for the mental health center. We had Mr. Corson over here was sitting on the board the last couple of years before I got off the board. We had to close the hub. The hub was on 27th Street. We had a lot of folks that were not very happy with our location. They were not very happy with where we were and the image of the hub being there. Let me tell you a little bit about the homeless mentally ill. They came through the doors. It took them a couple months to know our counselors. After that, we were able to give them support, and they trusted us, and we were able to give them the opportunity we got them into housing, we got them into services, things like that. The biggest part of it is spending the time on the mentally ill and trying. You cannot take someone on the street with schizophrenia and try to put them in an apartment. You've got to work with them, try to help them, try to help them all the way. The one thing that people said about the hub was that those are your people that are on the street. They're not my people. They're people. And they're people in the hub. And the people that were in the hub, we gave them lunch. I had lunch there all the time. And they needed to feel wanted. And then we were able to give them services. I think the hub program needs to be helped. I think the crisis center, we need to add more services so the crisis center we don't have a revolving door every other night with the same people.
Question number 2 here. As our city continues to grow, public safety has been on the top of the minds for many voters out there. What is your vision for public safety in Billings? What policies or measures would you support to make Billings a safer and better place to live for the economically diverse population that's here?
If you look at the murders and the violent crimes that we have had in this community over the last 5 years, you will see that the person that committed the violent crimes or the murder has a rap sheet an arm's length long. We have a policy right now because we do not have a facility that can lock people up. I call it catch and release. And most of the time, the officers tell me by the time they're not finished with the paperwork and the person is released, a lot of times those people are out there committing an even violent crime than what they committed earlier because there wasn't a deterrent or the opportunity to have them locked up. One of the things the city needs to start talking about, and the council did write a letter to the commissioners, and the commissioners just kind of said, okay, you wrote a letter, that's it. 70% of the tax dollars that are generated in the city of Billings go into the jail. In 2012, I asked, we had a study done, Captain McCabe at that time was able to bring in a study looking at the building. The building was built in 1985. It's obsolete, the pipes are bad. When you run 365 days a year with overcrowding and all of that, it's going to fall. And so the recommendation was to build. Add more beds to it. It would have been a $25 million issue for the people in the county. What happened was I got voted down on that one. The commissioners have spent $22 million so far on that old building since I left the commission in 2016. So as you can see, I think if you're going to help the officers and you're going to deter some of these excessive crime after crime after crime, we're going to have a facility that can lock some people up.
With the on the ballot this November is the $143 million parks bond. I did. Sorry, I missed one there, Bill. I'm going to go in order here. With the rising cost of housing and cost of living, many people, especially younger folks, are struggling to see a sustainable economic future for themselves here in the community. What do you think the role of the City Council is in helping to support and retain a talented young workforce in Billings?
That's a good one. For years, I've supported Big Sky Economic Development. Big Sky Economic Development is supposed to be the catalyst for us to create jobs and bring people in. We do not want to bring in $16 an hour jobs. We want to educate people, take them to the university, the trades, everything else, so we can help them. And I think the role of the city is to be an active member with Big Sky Economic Development, to work with the county, and to make sure we work with businesses to offer incentives and to be able to go forward with jobs. I mean, the name of the game is jobs. You got to have a place to live. You got to have, you want food on the table. You want good schools for your kids. And you want a job that can afford to do these things. And I think it's really important. And in this community, when I go door to door, number one thing is people don't want to go back to working 2 jobs to try to make ends meet. And then your daycare costs are $1,200 a month for one child. There's no money left. And so we have to get involved. And it's not just to do roads and bridges and things like that. We need to look at jobs and how to create jobs in the community. And the city needs to be a catalyst.
With the ballot coming in the mail here that we're all looking forward to, one of the big issues is a $143 million parks bond that would build the new recreation center on the south side of Billings, as well as invest in the parks and trails across the city. Will you vote yes on that bond, and why or why not?
You know, I haven't made up my mind yet, and I'll tell you why. As I have gone door to door, I am fully in support of the council to put it on the ballot. I said that because I want to give the people an opportunity to vote. When we had in 1996 the bond issue on the buildings at the Metro, we stepped out of it. We let the people decide what they wanted to do. I have to tell you, going around the neighborhoods, the majority of people I've talked to are on the fence right now. They're not sure. They're either on the fence or they said no. I was talking to a gentleman and his wife last night. There's other priorities that he was more concerned with last evening than the bond issue. And so I see one of the things, and I went up to the city administrator and talked to him about it. I said, you did not have all of your ducks in a row by the time you brought it out. People are still questioning what is going to get funded, what is not going to get funded. There's discrepancies. We went to 3 different folks that were talking about it, and there were 3 different prices. One was 141, one was 143, and one said, whichever one the top one was, it was $12 million less. So it was confusing. And I asked him if he would, and I'm going to a meeting in about a week with the city administrator, and he's going to go through each step. I think that's the confusion out there. It's a great project. There's a lot of projects that are out there that are great. In it, the biggest concern I have is South Park Pool. South Park Pool was shut down last year, and it's terrible in there. And I would like to see that $10 million to go and build up the South Park Pool. So that's an incentive for me.
All right. Communities across Montana have felt impacts of a changing climate over the last few summers, from smoky air and high temperatures to devastating flooding. What do you think the role for the City Council should be, if any, in combating a changing climate?
I think the City Council has been on the right track. We are probably one of the cleaner cities around. We've changed LED lighting and have gone forward that way. I think there are 4 buses that are electric right now. We We switched years ago to a lot of natural gas run garbage trucks. I think the city is pointing in the right direction. We've seen extreme weather the last 5 years, and it's really tough to say the climate isn't changing. So it's one thing. The city needs to also do its part.
All right, we're going to move over to some more fun ones for you here. But Bill, these can be quick. These can be one word. We're not looking for a long one on some of these. We just want to know what's top of mind here. Favorite restaurant in Billings? This is tough. You've been here a long time.
Favorite restaurant is Jake's Downtown. They have the best prime rib in town.
All right, go-to karaoke song. You don't have to perform it.
Unless you want to.
You could, yeah. The stage is yours.
I'm stumped.
All right, I think we'll all just use our imaginations. Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is...
Mr. Kelsey's girlfriend.
Okay, that is very topical and accurate. Favorite place to go on a weekend in Billings?
Walk through Pioneer Park.
Okay, I was just there earlier. It was beautiful. Dogs or cats?
Dogs. My schnauzer would want me to say that.
Personal decision. One thing you wish you could change about Billings in 1 or 2 words. So it's got to be an overly simplified, something that needs to be changed. Don't you wish it was this easy?
Impression.
Ooh, I like that. It's kind of philosophical. If you had a celebrity that was willing to come to Billings and canvass for you for this campaign, who would you invite and why?
There's a friend of mine down in Miami, Judge Leifman. And Judge Leifman came up here a couple times. He works with the mentally ill. He's worked to change the mental health laws in Miami. He has worked for, I was on a jail diversion program, traveling around the country looking at all the jails and the facilities as we asked to divert the mentally ill out of jail and looking at the facilities. He is, he's an amazing man, and he's someone that with the homeless, with the mental illness problems we have in this community, I think I would ask him to come here to speak and to talk to people about how we can make some changes here.
Excellent. Favorite form to eat potatoes in?
Say
a lot
that
of
again.
choices. Your favorite way to eat potatoes? Mashed, fries, tater tots. We've got all the options.
Okay, there's my wife makes, I call them cheesy potatoes. They're called funeral
I was
potatoes,
going to say funeral potatoes.
and they are the best.
That's a good choice as well. Do you believe in ghosts?
I believe in spirits. I think there's evil spirits and there's good spirits around us. And I think you can attract either way.
What is the last book that you've read?
It was John Grisham's. It's The Lawyers.
Oh, like that. That was fun. Thank you very much for the good responses and the quick responses as well. We're going to give you guys a second to think of some questions here. Grab some coffee if you want. Move around a little bit, and then we're going to come back and ask some questions. Pass the microphone around. So feel free to stretch a little bit, grab some hot chocolate, some coffee, and then we'll give you guys a chance to ask some questions to Bill. Who's got a question for Bill? All right over this way. I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, Bill. Bailey Nickloff, for those who didn't meet me. Thanks for chatting with us earlier. We're queer. We're a queer couple. Billings is becoming more queer as time goes on. It's 2023. So what is your stance on if we were to pass a non-discrimination ordinance in Billings? I mean, they've tried to do it in the past a few times. I think it's time that we finally get the job done and pass it. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
You know, looking at the numbers on the board and where it's going, I don't think you would get one through. I think there's an opportunity for us, and the opportunity is as we look at discrimination, as we look at the different pockets of folks, we need to address it through the discrimination policy through the city. And I think we can do that. I think we can look at it and we can see where the problems are. I know people have been talking for a good 10 years on having an ordinance, and it just hasn't made its way. Let's go the other way, and let's find a solution that we can get so there is not discrimination at all. I have to tell you, I had a fundraiser last night, and my cousin Danielle Agnew sang at it. I was able to cater her wedding when her and Rebecca got married. Love them dearly, and no one. I run by the golden rule. I treat people the way I want them to treat me, and everyone should be treated equal. And we'll work on issues, but there is a way to do it. As I've told people for many, many years, I worked on a commission, and I was the lone Democrat, and we accomplished a lot. But a lot of times you got to go from instead of going from point A to point B, you go from point A to C. You find out what we can all agree upon, and then you get it to point B. Because I've learned one thing in all of these years. If you go from point A to point B, it may be short-lived. So if you want to work on something, we can work on something so it lasts forever. And did that help?
Yeah, I have another one unless anyone else had questions. I don't want to hog the mic.
Oh, go ahead. We have plenty of time.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
make it work.
So you had mentioned that a high percentage of our tax dollars already go to the jail, they already go to law enforcement, and we're already seeing an increase in crime. And so I'm wondering, have you ever considered how we increase access to low barrier housing, how we increase access to community services to decrease that violent crime and to decrease that the mentally ill and the houseless and helping them get into housing? Have you ever considered that, and rather than raising the price or raising taxes to go to more law enforcement or to go to more facilities like jails, have we ever considered the opposite?
A couple of things, and I've done a lot of study on it. I'm really big on the mentally ill and what do we need to do. Most of your violent crimes come from early trauma in a person's life. And you'll talk to a lot of people over the years, and that's one of the reasons I'm at the Family Tree Nurturing Center, is because over the years you have parents parenting their children and teaching the same things that happened with their parents and their parents passed down. And a trauma-based environment needs to be addressed. And we see that in our parenting programs. We have parents that have an idea that how they were treated as a child is the same way their children will be treated. We've got to break it. And you've got to break it you can't break it at this level. You've got to break it when the kids are young, working with their parents and children. I worked with the Even Start program, and we worked with parents and children. I did home visits with the parents and the children. We worked with them in the early childhood center. We also brought the parents in and trained them. I think if you're going to make a change on violence in the home, you need to look at where the parents are and get them the help. And you need to make sure that we get the children the help. I did go to the mental health center and asked Rod over there if I could get child therapy for our children, because they're coming from a dysfunctional family. We've done that, and we're trying to get them into our parenting class and then getting them into the mental health center so we can make a change in their lives. It doesn't happen if you don't. You do have folks that you don't make any changes at all. I'll tell you, when I was at the Y and we'd have mom and the 2 or 3 kids coming through the door, with just a shirt on their back. And a lot of times the kids didn't have shoes, and they needed a place. It took her a lot to get up and finally say, enough's enough, I gotta move out. But the biggest problem is, what's gonna happen to her? And she has to worry about that. And so many times, people stay in violent, terrible environments because they're not sure, they're afraid what tomorrow, they don't want to be on the street. And so that was one of the biggest pushes I had for the domestic abuse shelter, is that we got the victims and got the services. I think the number one thing that we're talking about today is how do we treat our victims of crimes, especially violent crimes. And the Justice Center is a perfect opportunity for us to come together. But on the other hand, there are bad people. And what the cops are telling me is when they pick them up, and they don't have room at the jail. So we have to find that opportunity to be able to lock up some of those people. We have a problem downtown. He's the young man that runs the community downtown area.
Mehmet? Casey?
Casey.
Okay.
And we were talking. There are a group of not good players down there, okay? There are a lot of homeless we have down there. And you can't brush them all with one brush. There are people that need help. And there are trained people that have been working that, and I wholly support that program with the 2 officers down there and with the mental health folks. I would ask for more mental health providers to help down there. It's a great program. But you do have some people that act out. And whatever you do, you've got to say, enough is enough. If you go through Alcoholics Anonymous, what they will tell you is, once you hit rock bottom, then you're willing to make a change in your life. Until you're ready to make that change. We have some bad players that wander the downtown area that cause some problems. We do need to have a deterrent, some way, even to sober them up for a few days and say, hey, if you don't, we're going to put you into a treatment program. And I visited a program in Long Beach, and the judge takes them in, locks them up, or gives them the opportunity to go to the day treatment program. He said he has had a good 70% of people going every day to the day treatment instead of the other, which is being locked up. And he goes over and has lunch with them every day, and he knows a lot of the people, and he sees hundreds of them. But he said, you gotta have something that's a deterrent. And that's on the jail space. And I know one of the council people brought up that we look at a 72-hour, and that might be a good idea. And I wholly believe that any domestic violence needs to be locked up. I mean, no questions about it. Get them in there, get a cooling off period. We have seen more violent crimes when they have been released than when they had a cooling off period for 2 to 3 days. I've been looking at statistics on the police. We did I think we got an allotment of about 20 more officers to come on the street. There's two problems that I see. Number one is we pay a police officer such a low pay to be out on the street all the time. You need to bring it up, and then you can attract officers to your community. We're one of the lowest in the state. Number two, we need to give them the tools to actually be able to do their job. And that's to be able to book them and to move on so they can go back out. I'm worried about, we have 9 officers on each shift in a city this size throughout the 24 hours. if you have 2 DUIs in the same night, you take 2 officers for every DUI. That's 4 officers. That only leaves 5 officers on the street at that time. We have a large community, and there's a lot of different things going on. I think we do need to beef up our police force. We do need to add some more. I think we need to look at some more mental health services. Those are things that will complement each other and help with our problems and hopefully start de-escalating the issues.
Excellent questions. Anybody else with questions? All right, let's go back over here.
I wonder if you could speak to the ballot measure that will be on concerning the need to review or the desire to review the county and city governments.
Yes, that commission is elected. It's voted on and it's elected every 10 years. We have government review. I have been in support of government review ever since I got on the Yellowstone County Commission. I think it's an opportunity for our citizens to make comments, to make changes in the government, and to come back and make sure that it is a representative government for the people in the community. Yes, I would support putting it on the ballot, giving people the opportunity to vote for it, and I would ask that the League of Women Voters and the other groups that are here, Forward Montana, also educate people of why you want a study commission. And the other thing I would say is you need a good group of people, once it passes, to get on that commission so we can actually, and I don't want them to operate in a vacuum, I want them to hear what really needs to be changed. I think the city of Billings has been under a charter. I think the charter has some problems with it. I think there needs to be some changes to it. Looking at it, I also look at, do you have representation, the right representation for every part of town? And that may be something they address. There's a lot of things, and I think over 10 years, you need to review. You need to get the people that live in the community to say yay or nay. I'd like to see these changes. I'd like to get rid of some of this. And I love to hear from people to see what they want.
Who puts the commissions together?
The commission is elected. So what you do is the council and the county commission have the authority to go forward, hold a public hearing, and decide if they're going to put it on the ballot. And I really think people need to go forward and say, put it on the ballot. And then they recruit whoever wants to run for that study commission. And we need good people. And look at that study commission. And they run and they're elected. That the study commission will be on the ballot next, the primary in next June. And then they would elect, if it passes in June, they will elect a commission in November, and they'll start January 1 and go forward, conducting hearings and looking at what they have. They have 2 years to the following general election that initiative can be put on. We've had 2 since I've been on, and one of them is, if you will look at the Yellowstone County Commission, I think 3 commissioners is not enough. I think you have a problem with that. You have one commissioner controls another vote, which has happened for many, many years, and I don't think you can get anything done. I think you have to at least have a 5-member commission because it's very tough to hold 2 votes, or to hold more than 2 votes. So I would recommend we see a change in the commission. I would also recommend to look at the makeup of the city council, look at the charter, see what changes we need to do, because I think everything needs a change.
It might be too much without looking at it, but are you in favor of a strong mayor form of government, or do you prefer, as it is now with the city administrator and the mayor as we have it now in the charter?
The concern I have is I do like a strong mayor system, and I'll tell you why. I go back to the age of Joe Leone here in town, and we had a strong mayor council form of government. And a lot of times, I've worked with city administrators for over 30 years. They're great. They do it, their whole thing. I worked with the city council when the mayor didn't even have a vote, only to break ties. He was there just to conduct the meeting. We voted and made a change to get the mayor so he's a voting member. I would like to see the mayor have more of a say and run the city. It really does help. And the city administrator would be the assistant to the mayor and the council. I would like to see that.
Any other questions? Right up this way.
Hey, Bill. We, at the last forum, were talking a little bit about young people's ability to engage with city government. So, thinking about things like county, like commissions and boards that people can sit on as citizens often meet at 3:00, and people have full-time jobs or they have children. There's no compensation. Just a lot of different things that are barriers to folks getting actually involved. I even heard someone say you shouldn't run for local office if you have a full-time job. Things like that are really big barriers to people actually getting involved. So curious, if elected, what ideas you might have for breaking down some of those barriers and getting more young folks involved in city government.
I'm glad you brought that up, because Jim Corson will remember this. When I first ran for commission, I had a problem that people could not attend the commission meetings. The commission meetings were every Tuesdays at 9:00 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And who can get off to attend the commission meeting? And if it goes an hour, if it goes 2 hours or whatever, who has that ability to take that time off? A lot of people don't. So we push night meetings. And I'll tell you, I was fought tooth and nail on that. But we had night meetings for a long time. I have no problem with doing things in the evenings or on weekends. When I take on an elected position, it's not a job. It's a way of life. If you want to see change in your community, then you're going to attend things. You're going to be there in the evenings, on weekends, or whatever. But you have to make it available for the people that live in the community. I love the idea of having youth involved. What's wrong with doing a study commission and make sure we had a youth, an ad hoc member from, have a youth on the city council to give you another point of view. Those are all things that we have worked with Hands, and they work with the youth, and I work with the Breakfast Exchange Club. We have youth groups, we have exchange clubs in all the high schools. Those kids have a lot of ideas. I'm an old history teacher. I would love kids to be involved. So if there's a way we can do it. A lot of people don't like to do it because it infringes on their time. I also have one pet peeve, that if you are elected and you are showing up for the council meeting, don't open your packet as you get there for the council meeting. If you've ever watched council meetings, people open it up for the first time. Please, when you get it, read it, go through it, do your homework, and then come to the meetings. Just my pet peeve.
We got a question right here.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Bill, the city's having a bond issue. Well, we're in the middle of it. The ballots go out in 10 days. It's finalized November. School District 2 is looking at a bond issue coming up for upgrades at the high school facilities, career center, Dalis. It appears to me, Bill, that there's at times not a lot of coordination between local government when it comes to going out on like bond issues. You got the city for the rec center at like Amon Park, and upgrade the parks and hear me okay? Yeah. But, and then you got the schools, and from my understanding, there's not a lot of coordinating of who does what. I mean, because they're all, to be honest, they're all not going to pass. You're not going to have a bond issue next month, which is, it is next month when it's done. And then a year from now, we have another multi-million dollar, bond issue for the schools. Shouldn't there be some, kind of coordination between local government, which means the school district, county, city, on the timing of those?
Thank you for the question, Jim. The biggest thing is, I've got to tell you, I've worked with nonprofits for years. The big thing with the nonprofits are, everyone says, let all the nonprofits come together and work together and things like that. You still need funding to run the nonprofit. It becomes a very competitive world out there. In a perfect world, we would all be working together. That's why I like the Family Justice Center. We have to be under the same roof and working together. When you talk about the schools and you talk about the city, the number one issue out there is, and talking with the teachers union, we talked about the SRO officers in the schools. We've had some problems in the schools. They would like to have officers in the schools. I think it's a great program. Kids bond with the officers bond with the kids. It's a good program. The city should be working with the school district. The superintendent should be working with the council. They should be talking about that. And if you're going for more officers, bring together a program together and bring it to the voters and discuss it. When you say, shouldn't they all get together? They do, once or maybe twice, unless someone says, oops, we missed it this year. Get together. And no, there should be more collaboration with them. And you should be planning a lot of these things out. Sometimes what happens is the schools usually look at their numbers, and if they have to go out for a ballot issue. And a lot of other local governments look and say, hey, I'm going to beat them to the punch and I'm going to get it out there first. And it's like a competition. I think we need to really look, what is the overall needs in the community, and let's all get behind it and support each one of them. Because the more we push them down the road, the more costlier they are. And those are things that you really need to get through. I do believe that we need more collaboration with them.
Right over this way.
I got one more for you. I'm just gonna stand too. I'm kind of sore, but just pushing back on that a little bit. I disagree with having more resource officers in schools because it contributes to the school to prison pipeline. We get a lot more Black, brown, and low income students in the school, so I just want you to consider that.
Sure.
But my question is actually completely unrelated. We're in an energy crisis. Northwestern is going to, they are a monopoly. They're going to be increasing our rates pretty soon. And I'm wondering, how would the city council help to incentivize people to move to renewables and make renewables more affordable, like solar, geothermal, what have you?
You know, looking at the program, I think you have to look at it and make sure it's cost effective. And I just looked at a friend of mine's house the other day and looked at the solar on their house. I'd love to do solar on my house. I wanted to do a windmill. I can't do a windmill in the middle of the city. And, I'd love to do a windmill. I wanted to do that. I think Northwest Energy has, my bias is, I think the Public Service Commission does whatever Northwest Energy wants them to do, okay? And I would say we've got to make sure that they start looking at the ratepayer. There's a lot of people, if we can find some programs that really incentivize people and help them, and we can do some tax credits inside the city to make that incentives work for them, to make sure that they don't look and say, it take me 30 years to at least see the benefit of it. I think the city should do what they can to help. I really do.
Got time for one more question if anybody's got one. Anybody? All right. Everybody taken care of. Thank you guys all for coming out. Thank you to Bill.
Thank you.
Yes.